Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
President Russell Marion's health has long been a source of speculation, but the truth has now out. At 100 years old, he has been in and out of the hospital on a regular basis, with his physicians expressing little hope for change. His condition seemed to be deteriorating with time. President Nelson lived a very exceptional life. He created a great profession, raised a solid family, and led a church with more than 17 million members. However, the great issue on everyone's mind is whether his 100th birthday would be his last. Let's look into the specifics and receive an update on his present condition. Russell Marion Nelson's incredible adventure started on September 9, 1924, in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was born to Floss Edna and Marion Claver Nelson, and has two sisters and a brother. His father was a journalist for the Deseret News and subsequently served as the general manager of Gillum Advertising. Despite the fact that his parents were not practicing Latter-day Saints, Nelson and his siblings attended Sunday school. Nelson was baptized into the church at the age of 16, indicating his formal membership. Nelson had a wide range of interests as a child, including assisting his father with advertising projects. Russell Nelson worked part-time at a picture studio, a bank, and a post office while also assisting his family's advertising firm. He also participated in his school's debate team and performed the piano. When it came to football, he frequently joked about safeguarding his hands, claiming he was conserving them for his future job as a heart surgeon. It turns out that it wasn't simply a joke, he actually spent his career conducting heart surgery. Nelson had an exceptional singing voice and frequently performed in church. Dancel White, his future wife, too had a great voice, and music was what drew them together. When Nelson heard her sing, he knew he had found Mrs. Right. 3 years later, on August 31, 1945, Nelson wed Dancel. Dancel completed her bachelor's degree and worked as a teacher until their first kid was born. She made several sacrifices to ensure the success of their family. The couple decided to have their 6 kids first before pursuing their jobs. Their marriage was blessed with 10 children, and they gave their family the best life they could. Unfortunately, Dancel died quietly in Salt Lake City in 2005 with her husband, Russell Nelson, by her. Russell Nelson was both a diligent youngster and an adult who worked extremely hard. He attended LDS Business College while working as an assistant secretary in a bank while he was in his mid-teens. After graduating from high school, he was admitted into the University of Utah, where he joined the Sigma Chi Beta Epsilon chapter and Owl and Key. Nelson earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1945 and was a member of Phi Beta Kappa. However, that was not the end of his academic adventure. He continued his study at the University of Utah School of Medicine, where he received his Doctor of Medicine degree, placing top in his class at just 22 years old. Following medical school, Nelson completed his residency at the University of Minnesota, where he was instrumental in designing the heart-lung machine, which enabled the first successful human open heart surgery. His breakthrough study earned him a PhD from the University of Minnesota. Russell Nelson had already established himself as a world-renowned cardiac surgeon before being dubbed a prophet, seer, and revelator of his faith. In the 1920s, operating on the human heart was thought to be impossible, but Nelson's medical accomplishments during his tenure at the University of Utah helped change that. Despite the fact that nothing had changed, Russell Nelson was uneasy with the status quo. He had been told not to touch a beating heart because it would stop. But he found this ludicrous. What if the human heart could be revived? What if he and his colleagues could create something that would provide patients a second chance? Nelson, driven by curiosity, assembled a group of like-minded individuals. During his residency and PhD studies at the University of Minnesota, he became fascinated by the human heart and experimented with the first heart-lung bypass system. By 1948, he had helped construct the first machine capable of prolonging a dog's life for 30 minutes, a significant achievement given that such a feat was regarded to be impossible at the time. However, when the equipment was ready to be tested on human patients, it was too enormous to transfer. However, Nelson and his colleagues refused to quit up. They went back to the drawing board and started working on another heart-lung bypass system, this one tiny enough to fit within an operating room. And here's an unusual twist: his late wife, Dancel, was instrumental in helping him design this gadget. Nelson was more than simply a surgeon, he was also an accomplished bioengineer. In March 1951, this newly built equipment was utilized for the first time on a human patient. The situation was so difficult that the patient died during operation. However, this equipment moved Nelson and his colleagues closer to discovering answers, ushering in a new era for the dedicated group of specialists. Nelson returned to the University of Utah in 1955 to serve as an assistant professor of surgery and director of the thoracic surgery residency program. He created an upgraded version of the heart-lung bypass equipment, which was utilized in Utah's first open-heart surgery on November 9, 1955. Vernell Worthen had an atrial septal defect and survived for several years following surgery. This suggested that Russell Nelson was discovering long-awaited solutions to cardiac ailments. He finally understood what he wanted and how the equipment should operate. Later, the hospital hired a professional machine business to build the gadget. Nelson performed his first successful pediatric cardiac procedure in March 1956, when he repaired a 4-year-old girl's tetralogy of Fallot completely. He oversaw a variety of procedures, with a particular emphasis on improving cardiac care. He specialized in coronary artery disease and made substantial contributions to valvular surgical development. One of his proudest moments came in 1960, when he conducted the first-ever tricuspid valve regurgitation repair on a Mormon stake patriarch. This ailment causes blood to flow backward into the upper chamber of the heart, and Dr. Nelson was the first to treat it effectively. He performed a series of aortic valve replacements in 1968, including one on Spencer W. Kimball, who would go on to become president of the LDS Church. President Nelson achieved another milestone in 1985 when he conducted quadruple bypass surgery on Chinese opera singer Fong Rangxiang. He traveled all the way to Jinan, China, for this treatment, which remains his final operation to date. The Fong family is still thankful to him, and they lovingly refer to him as "Old Friend of China." In 2018, President Nelson was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award for his pioneering work as a heart surgeon and cardiac medical researcher. He and 3 others were awarded Utah's 2018 Governor's Medals for Science and Technology. He has also earned various accolades, including the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Utah, the Citation for International Service from the American Heart Association, and the Heart of Gold Award from the American Heart Association. The American Heart Association awarded him the Heart of Gold Award, and the American Academy of Achievement presented him with the Golden Plate Award. He has also been appointed as an honorary professor at 3 institutions in the People's Republic of China. He is included in Who's Who in the World, Who's Who in America, and Who's Who in Religion. In the autumn of 1965, he traveled to Illinois to examine a lucrative offer to lead the cardiovascular and thoracic surgery unit at the University of Chicago. Upon arriving, he and Dancel selected the ideal neighborhood in which to raise their 9 girls. While he was unsure about the position, he was enthusiastic about the research and professional prospects that awaited him. One evening, he met Dolan H. Oakes, a young Chicago law professor, and his wife, June. Nelson expressed his ideas on the chances in Chicago, and they pushed him to take the offer, emphasizing its importance. Although Dr. Nelson was happy with the appointment, he wanted to talk with one more individual. Days later, he visited with David O. McKay, the then church president. President McKay spelled forth the facts. Dr. Nelson would be appointed head of the department, his pay would be 5 times his existing income, and the school would fund his children's tuition, among other advantages. Any normal father with 9 daughters and a wife would accept such a great offer. However, Russell Nelson declined it because President McKay persuaded him to do so. This choice eventually qualified him for a larger role as church president years later. Before becoming the 17th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he was a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles for 34 years. During his tenure as an apostle, he played the organ at quorum meetings and addressed members in their native languages. He is considered the finest writer in the Quorum of 12. He has been to 133 countries and consecrated churches, opening doors for the church in Eastern Europe and China. At the Utah headquarters, he chaired 3 governing committees, the Missionary Executive Council, the Temple and Family History Executive Council, and the Priesthood and Family Council. On January 2, 2018, the 16th church president, Thomas S. Monson, passed away. Following his resignation, authority passed to Russell Marion Nelson, the most senior member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, who was ordained and set apart on January 14, 2018, becoming the church's 17th president. D. Todd Christofferson, the church's senior apostle, made the announcement during a live stream from the Salt Lake Temple, following the presentation of the church's new leadership. The president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the church's top officer and the head of its highest governing body. Members of this religion consider the president to be a prophet, seer, and revelator, and they frequently refer to him as the prophet. President Russell Nelson is considered God's mouthpiece and the greatest priesthood authority on earth by Latter-day Saints because he is the only one who gets revelations from God on behalf of the entire globe. President Nelson once observed, regardless of where we live, church members are deeply committed to God's fatherhood and man's fraternity. Hence, our greatest delight comes when we assist our brothers and sisters, regardless of where we reside in this lovely globe. This devotion explains why his church has earmarked $1.3 billion in humanitarian help for 2023. This help was extended to people of all ethnicities and religious affiliations, with some gifts going to women and children. Under his leadership, the church prioritized child nutrition worldwide, donating to organizations such as Save the Children and the World Food Program. The church also improved maternal health by working with UNICEF in Mozambique and the Central African Republic. It also gave millions of dollars to address the Israel-Hamas conflict, with cash going towards physical and mental health treatment in Israel and Gaza. In 2023, President Nelson's church collaborated with other charity organizations to help refugees and immigrants globally. In Sacramento, California, the church distributed 500 foam mattresses and other items to migrants sleeping on the floor. The Latter-day Saints relief initiatives also focused on eliminating food insecurity, homelessness, and abuse in North America. In Montreal, they changed people's lives by donating almost $750,000 to a local homeless shelter. The church was instrumental in Maui's recovery from terrible wildfires, offering emergency housing, hotel vouchers, and sending psychiatrists to assist individuals devastated by the tragedy. In terms of environmental activities, the church donated 14,000 trees to Mongolia, placed solar panels on several of its meeting halls, and converted to communion cups made entirely of recyclable materials. Finally, President Nelson's. The church gave 20,000 acres of water in Utah to help protect the Great Salt Lake. Its Just Serve initiative enables members to organize minor volunteer projects. President Nelson emphasizes that these activities represent a small portion of the church's humanitarian operations. Without a doubt, his leadership is regarded as among the most influential in the world. However, it has recently encountered criticism, with adversaries claiming that the church is not inclusive. When he was chosen president, several LGBTQ+ people believed he would reform some policies. He rose to prominence in 2019 after repealing controversial policies that prohibited baptisms for children of LGBT parents and removed the categorization of same-sex couples as heretics who may face excommunication. His government eventually backed laws defending same-sex marriage. President Nelson's body language initially indicated that he would completely embrace the LGBTQ+ community. However, months later, he modified several rules, saying that LGBTQ+ individuals are welcome in the church while retaining the belief that same-sex marriage is a sin since God's definition of marriage remains unchanged. He said that real love does not support self-destructive behavior has also hampered transgender individuals' engagement in religion. Members of this group are disappointed that they were excluded because of their gender. President Nelson has also received criticism for his views on women's leadership. While he appears to respect and cherish women, many contend that his definition of gender is outmoded. For example, he emphasizes the importance of women prioritizing parenting above all else, emphasizing that they should pursue their interests and callings because they constitute a holy obligation. This view is one of the reasons why women are not ordained as church priests or permitted to officiate in rituals such as baptism and sacramental symbol blessing. However, they maintain leadership roles, occasionally preach from the pulpit, and lead congregational prayers during worship sessions. Despite the hardships of guiding nearly 17 million members, President Nelson is entirely committed to his work. It is worth mentioning that he is the church's longest-living president and he is not getting any younger. Having recently reached 100, his health is deteriorating, and he struggles to keep up with the fast-paced world. In 2023, he missed the General Conference at the Conference Center in downtown Salt Lake City and declared that he had watched the General Conference by technology, stating that he had fallen and hurt the muscles in his lower back. This episode changed his life forever, taking place just after his 99th birthday party when he was still in the thick of it. Fortunately, he reacted promptly to therapy, but at 99, physicians are unsure about the rate of his recovery and have ordered a gradual and cautious routine to help him heal. 1 year later, he has not fully recovered, with reports claiming that he is unable to sit in a chair for long periods of time. Until lately, he had not admitted that his health was failing. He eventually made some compromises, such as reducing his trip frequency. In 2022, he began sitting in a chair to make his twice-yearly General Conference talks, a departure from his previous practice of standing to address millions of church members. That modification has become required, and he revealed months ago that he occasionally utilizes a wheelchair or walker when dealing with minor balance issues. He did, however, emphasize that these issues are far from insignificant. He remarked that his spirit, legs, and brain still operate fine before finishing with a statement about his persistent balancing troubles. This should be the least of our problems. President Nelson is not the only church leader who has suffered a decrease in health. His predecessor, Thomas Spencer Monson, suffered from memory loss before his death. Members became aware of his health issues in 2015, when he missed a meeting with President Barack Obama and cut his speaking engagements in half. 2 years later, church authorities stated that President Monson would no longer visit his office or attend meetings owing to age-related difficulties. President Monson delivered 2 brief talks during the church's spring general conference that year, but he did not attend the Saturday and Sunday afternoon sessions. He died on January 2, 2018, when he was 90 years old. Similarly, Gordon Hinckley, the church's 15th president, served from 1995 to January 2008 and, thankfully, did not suffer any substantial physical or mental deterioration. He kept speaking at religious conferences until his death in 2008 at the age of 97. Howard Hunter, the church's 14th president, took office in June 1994 and died on March 3, 1995, at the age of 87. Ezra Taft Benson, the 13th president, died in May 1994, at the age of 94. In his final 5 years, he stayed out of the spotlight, seldom addressing the faithful at conferences or making public appearances. A similar process transpired with Spencer W. Kimball, the 12th president, who assumed office in 1973. By 1982, he was rarely seen in public, but he did attend at least one session of the General Conference every 2 years until his death in 1988 at the age of 90. Although President Nelson is steadily declining, he will not give up without a fight. He is following his doctor's advice and eating a healthy diet. His meals are primarily plant-based, including a mix of fruits, healthful grains, veggies, and legumes. He eats a limited quantity of lean poultry and fish, preferring real meals over processed ones. He believes that consuming natural foods maximizes nutritional advantages. His profession as a surgeon has had a profound impact on his diet. His experiences have affected his knowledge of nutrition and the value of living a healthy life. He's seen directly how lifestyle choices affect general well-being, which has pushed him to prioritize his health. His healthy lifestyle is clearly paying off, since he is 100 years old and still active. He also exercises daily to stay fit. President Nelson's living choices have had a significant impact on followers of the church, resulting in a rise in the number of vegan members since he became president. Many members, inspired by his teachings, have followed in his footsteps and embraced a plant-based diet. The church's website even has a section dedicated to plant-based cookery. There are ideas for healthy and nutritious meals that you should try. Despite President Nelson's poor health, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will commemorate his 100th birthday on September 9, 2024. To commemorate the event, church leaders, family members, and friends paid enthusiastic tributes. The event was aired from the Conference Center Theater on Temple Square in Salt Lake City, which was packed to capacity. President Nelson sat on stage with his wife, Sister Wendy Nelson, and was accompanied by his counselors, President Henry B. Eyring and President D. Todd Christofferson. Earlier, President Nelson urged members of his church to reach out to others and demonstrate compassion and care, using the lost sheep fable to make his point. He asked them to post about their experiences on social media. The centenarian thanked everyone who attended and gave a moving address, concluding with prayers for the church. Church leaders remarked on their interactions with President Nelson, whom President Holland described as a Renaissance man. Before his 100th birthday, few people realized he could speak at least 17 languages. Friends and relatives submitted recorded greetings to commemorate his big day, which culminated in musical performances at the conference center. The crowd also enjoyed songs by Nathan Pacheco, Jared Pierce, and Jenny Oakes Baker, such as Una Fortiva Lagrima and We Ever Pray for Thee, which Baker played alongside Pacheco. The grandkids and great-grandchildren performed I Will Be What I Believe. The assembly lifted spirits with performances of Rejoice, the Lord is King, and We Thank Thee, O God, for a Prophet. The event ended with happy birthday songs and a benediction. The ceremony was streamed live on the church's YouTube site, and you can watch the entire 75-minute video for additional information. If President Russell Nelson were to die today, President D.H. Oaks would take over. The church's leadership is passed down to the most senior apostle, and President Oaks, who is 88 years old, is presently the first counselor. If he dies before the current president, the most senior apostle will succeed him as president.